I'm Gary Trowsdale, I'm Managing Director of the Damalola Taylor Trust and founder of the Spirit of London Awards. Well, I guess my story starts in terms of the Spirit of London Awards and how I came to working with the Damalola Taylor Trust. I was a postman on the Aylesbury estate back in 1989. And of course that borders onto Burgess Park and it's just across the road from the North Peckham estate where Damalola was murdered. So although it was 10 years before Damalola was murdered, I had a very close-knit relationship with that area and that community. So when Damalola was killed, it really sort of hit me quite hard. I think it hit the whole of society, but I really felt it. And I had a daughter who at that time was around the same age that Damalola was, so I really felt it. So the opportunity to work with the Damalola Taylor Trust was like a blessing for me, and the fact that I came from the marketing world and I was able to do something, create something positive was really inspirational for me. I think, you know, the problem with old people is they forget they used to be young people, I think sometimes, and you know, I remember actually quite vividly being a young person, even though I'm pretty ancient now. But I had quite a tough upbringing when I was a kid. I had some problems, parental problems. My parents split up, and it was quite a harrowing time for me. And I remember, you know, really struggling. When you're a young person, you can really feel quite threatened when you have problems like that and you don't have parents to turn to. And so the opportunity, when it came around, you know, now that I had real experience in the marketing world, and I've also, when I was young, I really did get some help from one particular terrific youth worker. He was a guy called Errol Eubank, and I was living at the time just close by the Lambeth Walk, and he used to run a little youth club there out of a place called Salamanca House. It's no longer there. It's been knocked down many years ago now, but Errol was such a huge inspiration to the local community, and he really helped me. He got me into Fitzroy Lodge and he got me boxing at an age where, you know, I really needed to be taking out my frustrations somewhere, and a boxing bag was probably just as good a place to take them out as anywhere else. And he also got me into a lot of local football teams, and he just sort of was basically there for me. He looked out for an awful lot of people. So working with the Damalola Taylor Trust and, you know, recognising that, you know, probably more so than ever before, you know, young people need support. You know, it's difficult out there. It's tough. There's tough times, and even probably tougher times ahead. And so the opportunity to work with young people and to influence them positively and do something that they can find inspirational, you know, just a blessing, a real blessing. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. What inspired me to create SOLA was that, you know, well, firstly, our national media unfortunately have this hang-up that bad news sells their products. So the more bad news and the more bad stories they get about young people, it almost seems to be the better for them, because they will just fill their pages with that content. Being realistic to the fact, of course, unfortunately, when something really negative happens, like for instance with the death of Damalola, it does give them access to a hell of a lot of material to fill their newspapers with, where, you know, young people doing good things maybe doesn't give them quite that amount of content. But I felt that there was an opportunity. It was 2008 when I came up with the idea for SOLA, and there were 29 deaths on our streets of young people. And I felt there was an opportunity to create a product that could address the imbalance in the way young people were shown through the media, because the reality is the vast majority of young people, you know, in London are doing fantastic things. There's so many young people like yourself, you know, who step up to the plate and they really want to make a difference positively for their community. And their stories needed telling, you know. So I guess that because the Damalola Taylor Trust had a certain standing, a lot of empathy for Damalola's story, obviously, to create something as a legacy for him, but also, as we did so in 2008, make it clear that it would be a legacy for Ben Kinsella, for Jimmy Mizzen, for David O'Dowd, for Kean Prince, for all the young people we'd lost. You know, we've lost far too many. But to be able to create a legacy project for them, I might be able to actually walk into a national newspaper and get them to take some interest in what we were attempting to do. And I did that with the Sun newspaper, with SOLA. So now I felt that Spirit of London Awards and what it would come to stand for, we could possibly, if we did go out to try and emulate the Brits, the BAFTAs, the Mobos, you know, all those amazing award shows that are extremely glamorous but very much driven by celebrity, if we could actually if we emulate those kind of award shows, but actually do it for something far more worthy, i.e. upstanding young people, then it was something really worth doing. So that was the inspiration behind SOLA. My aspirations for SOLA is that it becomes a huge collective force for good. When I say collective force, I'm really talking now about the young ambassadors that have come through the awards programme. We're 4 years into SOLA now. We've staged 4 events. The first one was at the Alexander Palace in 2009. Then we went to the Indigo O2 in 2010, which was a very, very testing time for us because it was an election year. And it really, really was tough to get anybody to take any notice of you, let alone give you the support you needed. Then in 2011, we were lucky enough to get the one free charity let that the Royal Albert Hall give each year. Our young people, actually, the young people working with me, they put the bid application in and they were successful. So we staged SOLA 2011 at the Royal Albert Hall. It was quite amazing. 5,000 people in there. It was absolutely wonderful. And then last year, you know, the eyes of the world had been on London with the 2012 Olympics, so we were crazy enough to try and stage the biggest live youth award show. And we took on the main O2 Arena, which is a very, very harrowing, huge space. It's the biggest indoor arena of its size in Europe. And we put 6,000 young people in there. Very, very challenging again, because the Olympics really, anything that wasn't part of the Olympics last year was a struggle. It's probably one of the worst kept secrets, but it's a reality, is that people that weren't directly involved with the Olympics, even taxi drivers will tell you the same thing, you know, they weren't making any money last year while the Olympics was going on. We tried to stage this huge event, so it was tough, but we managed it. We now have 140 young ambassadors, and we go into schools, we stage what we call the SOLA School Roadshow. And we go into schools, and those young people, they come on the roadshow with us and they tell their stories. And my aspiration with SOLA and where it's going is that it is now, I believe, starting to influence other young people who might be thinking about making the wrong choices to think again. And by the way that we put young people on a pedestal with SOLA, and you know, we treat their solid citizenship with such reverence, you know, I do believe that young people sit in that audience in schools, and we're being told this by head teachers, it is making them think again. So my aspiration for SOLA is that it becomes the game-changing project that I think our young people are capable of making it. I've not really been into politics myself, to be honest. I've met 1 or 2 politicians along the way who I've got. I'm talking about the SOLA journey now, and in my time with the Dublin Taylor Trust, who I think are, you know, are very well-meaning and from all different sides of the, you know, political equation. We have many. Chris Grayling, who's now the Minister for Justice, he's been one of the judges right from day dot when he was actually Shadow Home Secretary when we first launched SOLA under the last government. Simon Hughes, who's deputy of the Lib Dems, he's a local MP here in Bermondsey, and he's been involved with SOLA from day one. And then Chuka Umaga, who's my local MP, he's been involved right from the outset. So, you know, we get a lot of people sort of involved from all sides, and I think it's good that young people should first register to vote, and secondly, you know, really sort of understand the political process. But what does politics mean to me? Politics, to me, really is how many goals Chelsea might beat Tottenham by next weekend. That's really my real big grasp on politics. It's football. Football's more political than politics, by the way, these days. You know, again, I've been blessed with working with SOLA to see so many amazing young people, and the kind of young people that we've got working on this project are, you know, just, they never stop shocking me in terms of their commitment to do good and their commitment to make a difference to their community, and the fact that things are so tough now. You know, I'm a product, sort of man and boy, of being brought up in the Brixton area, and I've seen some really tough times through the years and through the eras that I've lived in Brixton. But it's a fantastic community, and you know, people have been down on it from time to time, but everybody really sort of pulls together, and most communities around London are the same. Also, what I love about working with young people is, you know, sometimes we see some issues, you know, and I'm going to talk about an issue now very openly, where we had a big bust up between Anton Ferdinand and John Terry not so long ago, which was very, very unsavoury, and there was all other manner of things happening, and there were an awful lot of barriers that we still need to break down. And I've written blogs on the subject that sort of brought me into quite disrepute at times. But I was actually taken off the street when I was a kid by a Mauritian family, and when I was living rough for a period when I was 15 years old, they took me in, and so that was in the mid-70s, so I got a very balanced outlook on life. But young people, when you work with young people don't necessarily even see colour. You know, I think we have the opportunity in this country of ours to become a colourblind society, and God, I hope I live to see the day. you know, where it's not about diversity, it's about equality. And the young people that I work with, that's what, you know, I demand that for them now. You know, diversity, it's old school, it's so yesterday, right? It's about equality. The best, the cream, float to the top. And it just so happens that in our toughest communities in London, a lot of those young people are coming from ethnic background communities, but that shouldn't matter nothing at all. They're the best at what they do, they've got the most passion, and so they rise to the top. If I was Prime Minister for one day, I would treat young people and the whole issue of youth as relevantly as the government now treats sport. There was a time, believe it or not, just having had the Olympics last year, when there wasn't a Department of Culture, there wasn't a Minister for Sport. Well, there isn't a Minister for Youth now, there isn't a Ministry of Youth, and there should be. And I believe that the Minister for Youth should be under 25. I think he should be duly elected by the electorate, and I think he should have a serious position to fill on the Cabinet. And I think if we start showing young people that they are treated with such relevance, then we won't see issues like the riots happen again. And I think more and more young people will engage in politics, more and more young people will sign up to vote, and then perhaps politicians will start treating youth issues with far more relevance than they already do. So if I was Prime Minister for one day and one day only, then I would create a Ministry for Youth, and I would create a Minister for Youth that would sit alongside me in the Cabinet. I'm Gary Trowsdale, sat here with the Opinion UK, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.